Let's shift gears to Business World Business Class. The beautiful hostess with utmost charm and poise is Miss Swetha Ramesh. Miss Ramesh has alongside her Mrs. K. Ramesh, who is the President and the CEO of Cybermedia Technologies. Let's hear out these two pretty women in the exchange of business dialogue.
Good morning, I'm Swetha Ramesh. Welcome to my first episode of Business World Business Class, where we interview entrepreneurs in the DC metro local area as well as the global community. Here I have with me K. Ramesh, President and CEO of Cybermedia Technologies. Let's take a look at the global and community impact of K's company. Hello, Mrs. Ramesh. How are you today? Thank you so much for joining me on Business World Business Class.
Hi, Swetha. I'm doing good. Thank you.
So today I'm just going to ask you a couple questions about your experience in the United States, about what brought you here, and how that experience has shaped the way you look at business today. So How long have you been in the United States?
I've been in the U.S. Since 1996, about 19 years now.
Oh, wow, that's great. Yeah, time does fly. So what year did you start getting involved in business?
Well, I started getting involved in the business since 2000. I actually came here for my graduate studies in 96. And at that time, I met my husband, who already started the business, and I joined him in 2000.
That's great. That's great. What was your motivation behind getting involved in business? You know, why did you want to become an entrepreneur and really take this journey in your lifetime?
Well, it's an interesting question that you ask because when I grew up, I was surrounded by entrepreneurs. My grandfather, my uncles, everybody owned businesses, and I was always intrigued by entrepreneurship and owning a business, because it was not about just the business, but it's about making an impact in the community. And so I was always drawn to it. And so when I came here, it was a great opportunity to pick that up and run with it.
Growing up in India, I know it's a very conservative society. You know, business is not the usual pathway for girls or women in India. What made you so drawn to this path as opposed to just staying and getting married or going off to college and finding a husband or something like that?
Oh, sure. I was not going to just stop with that.
Yeah.
So definitely this was in my dreams, being an entrepreneur. And you know, just doing my higher studies was one of my biggest goals after I went to engineering school for my bachelor's. So I came here to do my studies, and always entrepreneurship was in the back of my head. So I was definitely going to take this path.
That's great. Were your parents very supportive of this journey, or were they, you know, almost opposed to this as well?
Well, I wouldn't say my parents were opposed to it, but they were scared of it. My dad is a banker. Bankers always think about risks. And so my dad is always like, why don't you go work for somebody? Why don't you find a job? Dad, I have a job. You know, I'm creating more jobs in the community. And so it's always a risk for them from their perspective.
So what lessons or experiences from growing up in India, you know, making that trip here to come here and become an entrepreneur, what has that changed? What has that changed about your perspective on business? How has that really influenced you as a person?
Well, I think it's generally the experiences of a lot of entrepreneurs who come over here to make a difference, to realize the American dream. And I don't think mine is any different from that. But I guess the values that we bring with us when we come here is hard work. And growing up in India, nothing comes to you easy. Everything is competitive. There's a million people competing for the same thing. So you're always used to failures. You're always used to falling down, getting up, running again, falling down, getting up again. As many times as you fall down, you learn to get up and move forward. And I think that's the biggest lesson we all bring with us, because we're used to that competition, and we're looking for ways to move forward.
So you spoke a little bit about the American dream. What does that really mean to you as a business leader, as an individual, and how does business play a role in that?
That's a great question, Swetha. Well, American Dream, it's really about equal opportunity for everybody. And whether you come from a different race or different country, different language, doesn't matter. It's about having the right opportunity if you are ready to work for it. And I feel that that has really, been my dream to come in and experience that. And how it has impacted in the business world is the second part of your question, is about the fact that in the business world, it's again about hard work and opportunities and how you handle obstacles.
Yes, there are a lot of obstacles that you do face in the business world. It's not hard to become successful.
Yes, it is definitely a very rewarding experience, but I wouldn't say it's always a smooth ride.
So what were some of the obstacles that you did face coming into the United States as a first-generation Indian immigrant? What were some of the barriers that you had to get past in order to become successful and reach the level of success that you have now?
Well, from my personal experience, I can share with you some of the obstacles that we've faced, and that's a great opportunity to share a little bit about the company as well. What we do is federal government and state and local governments and healthcare industries. These are the markets we serve. What we do for them is automate HR and financial management systems. So we're talking about highly visible enterprise systems for the government. For example, like the immigration system. There is no room for errors. There's no room for inefficiencies in the system. And so we are building all these highly visible systems. And so some of the obstacles is that when we started out, when we were looking at some of these opportunities, I always thought that, hey, people who have experience doing this type of work is always going to be better than me. They're going to have better ideas because they've done this so many times. So when I started out, I always relied on other people to come up with some ideas, and then I soon realized that sometimes having a look at things from a fresh perspective gives you new ideas.
That's very true.
So that really helped. As far as obstacles, really, it's just I feel that being a first generation Indian immigrant, you don't have a lot of safety net other than your education and your self-worth. And so when you're faced with obstacles, that's basically you fall back on that education and your self-worth again. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, that answered my question. Thank you very much. I was going to ask you about what were the motivating factors for your success? Why were you really driven to work hard and come to the United States to become successful?
Well, my biggest motivating factor was that I didn't have an option to fail. So it was the only option was to succeed. And so I had the fire in my belly to succeed. And so whatever obstacles was put in front of me, I always found a way to how do I get around it, or how do I get to my success? And ultimately, it's all about serving the community and public service, especially working for the government. You can really see the impact that you're creating right away, and it's much bigger than you as a person. It's the whole company that you're creating, and a whole set of individuals.
It's a ripple effect, a little bit, right?
Exactly, and that's very rewarding.
That's great. So what kind of impact are you talking about? What kind of impact has your company really made on the local communities, especially doing some federal work, as you mentioned before?
Right. I can talk about impact from our company standpoint and also personally. From a company standpoint, for example, we are part of the E-Verify program, which is one of the biggest presidential agenda on immigration reform. This program is specifically, you put in data for example, your social security number, and then it would come back and tell you, are you legally qualified to work in this country?
Oh, okay.
Or if you're not legally qualified. What happens in the background is it goes and checks against different databases, immigration databases, FBI database, the CIA database. So really all the data that is available, and then it comes back and gives this data to employers. So an employer can go in and check your data, basically. So this is becoming a mandate in different states, and soon in the next few years it's going to be mandated in all 50 states.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so definitely we see that as a great impact directly to employers and also employees. And personally, I feel the impact that I've had being an entrepreneur is I'm involved with an organization called the Young Entrepreneurs, where we go in and train high school students.
Oh wow, that's great.
And, on entrepreneurship. And it's never too early to start, you know. So we do teach them about what is it about running a business? What do you need to be aware of? What is business strategy? What's marketing? What's sales?
So you really teach them what skills they need in order to enter the business world, be successful in the business world.
Exactly. And we have little competitions, business plan competitions and all of that, which keeps them motivated. Also at the same time they're learning. And we invite different business leaders to talk to these students. So they are starting at a very early age, and they have that in their minds when they go to college. Hey, I want to start a business rather than I want to work for somebody.
Yeah, it's very great. That's a pretty big impact you have not only on the community but on the future as well. The future of America is the children of America. So that's very good. Yeah.
Thank you. And that's a very personal passion of mine, and I'll continue to do that.
So as Indian first-generation immigrants are becoming more successful in the United States, what implications do you think this has for America's future, politically, socially? What kind of consequences do you think that this changing demographic has?
Well, statistically, if you're looking at it, the immigrant population in America has been rising. And among the business community, the Indian CEOs have been very successful statistically. And there is obviously several reasons that has been put forth on why they are the most successful group of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And your question is specifically about how it's going to impact the future.
In the future, yes.
The future. And I think that it really impacts the future generations in a very positive way, because we see that a lot of political representations in the next generation, minority representations in the political side of things. And also when you're looking at organizations now, the CEOs and CFOs, the top level executives are also, you see that there is a shift in that demographics as well. So I see that as a very positive change in America.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Swetha.
Thank you for watching. Join me next month at the same time, same channel on Business World Business Class.